Hi, everybody. Welcome into UnAnchored Boston with Bob Lobel. I'm Mike Lynch. Hope you all had a very happy and safe 4th of July. And here we go as we forge on. And as always, we are brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? Well, we're in New Hampshire, of course, and by the great George Gray, the big wheel, we call him, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. Got a little bit different show today. We lost a great friend, a great Bruin, a great member of the media, an all-around great guy, and Lyndon Byers, LB they call him. And we're going to play portions of an interview that Bob did with LB. So, Bob, he was one of a kind. Take it away.
He was. He and Cam Neely were like the Bash brothers when they first came to town. Were inseparable on the ice and off the ice. And Neely found out he could make a living scoring goals, and Lyndon found out he could make a living fighting people and protecting his teammates. And he was a beloved teammate because of all the protection he provided. Any of the guys that he played with, any Brickley, any of those guys, Neely, any of them, Bob Sweeney, will say the same thing. They all loved LB because he was not only was he funny, but he knew why he was there, and he knew what he could do. And he was beloved around town, as you know, Mike, because he could take on and beat up anybody he wanted to beat up, whether win or lose. He knew that was the part of the game, and he was just beloved as a Bruin. I can remember we were out in Pittsburgh, and you were there for the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Kevin Stevens was, Pittsburgh had a top brass, so they had such a great hockey team. And Byers, remember, he was suspended or something and had to stay back for a while. And then his first press conference, he said, "Boys, I'm back." That's all he, it was typical Lyndon Byers. But,
he was, Cam Neely was, lived in my neighborhood before we get married when he was still a bachelor, and his roommate was LB. And when I tell you, if I could have put a toll booth up on that little dead end street where the two of them lived, I'd be very wealthy today, because a lot of people wanted to see both those guys and raised a little bit of hell with both of them, and they knew how to do both of them pretty well. And a lot of ladies come by that gate as well.
I don't believe that.
I don't. I'm just saying. I was counting heads as they went by.
Yeah, well, so good. Right? Maybe we should do things a little differently. I'm going to start off with our Cold Springs RV commercial. Can I do that? Because
absolutely.
I wish Lyndon were going to be here so he could answer the question that we would ask him, but he's not. So he passed away on the 4th of July at age 61, which is incredibly young and so sad, but it shocked a lot of people. But he had been fighting illnesses over the last few years. But boy, he had a great broadcasting career too. Speaking of, with Greg Hill at WAAF in Worcester, and then 25 years, whatever it was, and then EEI. He was funny, he was good, and he was just great on-air personality. He was cut out to do a lot of things, and everything he did well.
Yep.
Well, anyway, Cold Springs RV. I'll see Greg Hill on the golf course one of these days and ask him to reminisce a little bit about Byers. But at this moment, there's a lot of summer left. As you know, we just got past the 4th, and some of you were just making it back from the Cape after starting, 4 days ago. And here's one of them right here. Now, see, if you took if you had a camper or something, you could really solve this problem. You could go down there, live a few days, do all the things you do on the Cape, stay there till all the traffic abates. It's a big word. Okay, it goes away. Okay, it goes away. Traffic goes away. And then come back in the camper. So there's a number of reasons why travel trailers, fifth wheelers, and park models and pop-ups and motorhomes at Cold Springs RV. This is the way to go. This is the future. This is about freedom. It's about to go and come as you can and when you want to. So go freely browse at the pressure-free environment and find the RV of your dreams. And there's got to be one, an RV of your dreams. Cold Springs RV, you and your family can shop with ease and tell them you can tell them anybody sent you. It would help if you told them Lobel and Lynch sent you, but tell them Lyndon sent you. That would be a good one. Yeah. And he would do that. So make this a summer to remember with Camper from Cold Springs RV, or visit the pressure-free dealer, Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, Ware,
Okay.
north of Tingsboro and west of Goffstown. That's pretty much tells you where it is. Easy to get to. Learn more online, coldspringsrv.com, and pick up the camper or pop-up of your choice. Obviously, you usually ask a question, but we're not going to do that today, I guess, are we? Because
Well, you know, we could speculate and say who would LB pick to ride shotgun with him across the country?
I wouldn't even dare to think. We can. I mean, maybe pick Cam. I'm just trying to be on the safe side here.
Yeah, I would say Cam, but I don't know. Cam might have too many responsibilities back with the Bruins, you know, and everything. I think he'd pick somebody like
Who?
Terry O'Reilly. Terry
Okay.
O'Reilly, somebody like that. You know.
Yeah. All right.
Talk about who was a tougher guy. Who had some of the best fights of all time? Was it Taz or was it LB? That's just a thought.
Well, they had a lot of them. They had Stan Jonathan. You had Winsink. You can go right. You had Chris Nyland.
Yeah, Knuckles.
Yeah. All right. I'll go with that choice. Just what was your choice?
That was it.
Rent Taz. Okay.
I'm still unsettled that you used the word abate.
I know. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll try to stay away from those.
Why don't we get to the video right now? I try to compose myself.
Okay. Here's the deal. We did an interview. You're right, with Lyndon Byers a few years ago. We were talking about Boston sports legends, and it was kind of like filling up a library with different interviews of guys we thought would be really great, and we happened to have done one with Lyndon Byers. So we broke it up into 5 or 6 sections, and so we'll just play the first one, and we'll see where it goes from there. How's that sound, Lynchy?
I love it.
All right, good. So let's have Keelan cue it up and fire away.
Z-Man, this is Bob Lobel. This is the legend, not me. I'm a legend in my own mind.
That's all right. Doesn't matter where you're. Okay, you can pass on the shirt. That's a very good.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Great to see you too, Lobie.
No, you had all these.
But hey, on the grip
sorry,
guy, right?
Wait, your hands are sore from all that fighting?
Yes, you know that.
That was after that's after
Yeah, I'm just glad my face doesn't look like my hands.
Your face is perfect.
Thank you.
What the tats? I didn't realize you had so many tattoos. You didn't have them when you played.
I had a couple, but you couldn't see them, and you don't want me to drop my pants, Lobie. So nor do your fans. So just a lot of stuff that's relative to my life. Everything means something. Hope. That was a great story. Vegas, I one-punched a guy. He was a mixed martial arts guy. I was defending myself, Lobie.
I'm sure you
But
were.
he kept saying to me, he was a young guy, he kept saying to me, you want to roll the dice, old man? And after like the 6th old man, I knocked him out. And so I had to get the tattoo. It's Lucky Dice, Snake Eyes, and 7s. And that's my son. And this is his namesake. It says in memory of Pete Gray, 5-year starter at BC, defensive end. And I've got the American flag and the Pledge of Allegiance on my back because everything I have and everything I own and everything that's special to me has been given to me by this country. And I could go on forever, but hey, I just love chatting with you. We haven't seen you for a long time, man.
No, but we've been pretty good friends.
Yes.
Going back a long way.
Yeah, about 1983.
All
Okay,
I remember,
pal?
we're in Pittsburgh, and the famous lines, "I'm back."
I'm back.
And because I think the Bruins were getting it handed to them by the Penguins.
Right.
And they were missing a physical presence.
Sure.
What was the deal?
It was a crazy deal because 2 years in a row we played the Russians. I think we played Spartak in 91, and then 92 we played the Red Army. And both games, Glenn Wesley hit me with a slap shot, broke my foot. The first game was my left foot. The next time was my right foot, and I ended up having surgery. They screwed it up. My season was junk basically because I kept trying to come back. Milbury said, "You know what? You're all done. See you next training camp." So I went down to Florida. So I'm in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm tearing it up, watching all the Bees playoff games on TV, having a great time. And they were in Pittsburgh, and it looked pretty bleak. It was 3-1. Pitt was, they were an outstanding hockey club. I mean, they were phenomenal. So I said, I want to be home when the fellas come back. So I flew back, and of course I show up at the airport. I go over to the Garden because it was so close. Some of the, the locker room guys are out playing shinny on the Garden ice. So I throw my gear on for the first time since probably February when I tried to skate and then it re-broke. My foot re-broke. And I was flying around out there, felt great. Our strength coach, Mike Boyle, called Mike Milbury, said, LB looks incredible. He's skating out here. So I had left the rink. I went back to my buddy Kai's place, a little watering hole in Malden, and I'm having a wobbly pop with Kai about 5 o'clock. In comes a cruiser, my buddy Skaki, and Angelo Skaki, the captain of the Malden Police. I think he's retired now. But he come flying up in a cruiser. Boyle called him to grab me. Milbury said, get him, there's a plane ticket. I need him on a plane at 7 o'clock.
Desperate acts by desperate men.
Yes, and the next morning I skated for the first time in like 3.5, 4 months in the morning skate with the team. I felt awesome. It was amazing. And he started me. Now, this is the great part about that no one knows about this whole story, is he literally started me, and I'm on the ice with Adam Oates to start that game, game 5, or game 4. Game 5, whatever it is. And Oatesy says he's going to push the puck forward. He pushes the puck past Lemieux. We end up going in on a 2-on-1. He passes me the puck. I have the open net. I shoot it, right, Lobie? It hits the post, goes around the boards the other way, right? That old chestnut, you know when it gets some speed off the side of the post. I miss the open net. Who picks it up? Mario Lemieux goes down and scores. I don't see the ice again till basically it was over. I think they were up a couple of 3 goals. Milbury threw me out at the end. I pushed Kevin Stevens around a little bit. Artie laughed at me, and they gave me a 10 and threw me out. And that was the end of my Boston Bruins career.
I've been howling laughing, and
I have too. I mean, I haven't seen that since we did it.
This is so cathartic, it's we're celebrating, how LB lived, and that's how he lived. I mean, his stories, just talking about Kai, so Dave Cayasso owned a bar in Malden, and that's why he's over there. Of course, he knew one of the police officers, and all his bases were covered, and amazing.
And I remember that Milbury was in Pittsburgh. I was going to say this before we started the interview. I said, I was sure Milbury was the coach. And it's funny that Milbury put him out there and pulled him off the ice for the rest of the hockey game. But that was Milbury, in his own right, Milbury, who we loved having on our show in the times that we've had him on. He was coming down the hall yelling at Dennis Morell, a locker room, and there's a Boston College priest standing right there. And he's saying, just another effing day at the office. Huh, Dennis? Just another effing day at the office. And the priest is standing right there pretending, looking down. It was hilarious, actually. So that's the kind of guys we were hanging around. We were able to have that kind of access. You could really feel the passion that all these guys had about what they did.
And we would fly for many years. We would fly on the Bruins charter, remember? And they would just build Channel 4, Channel 5, whoever else was on the plane. So, we got to see them all the time, 24/7 pretty much.
Much different guys than you see on the ice. I mean, LB, like, I love the story of the Las Vegas. He one-punched the guy in Vegas. Well, there's more. I mean, that's only the first of the 6, right?
Let's go.
Let's go to number 2.
It's you become offended when people think you're a little crazy.
No. I'm not
sure what that means.
But I think you get me, Lobie. My life is a gift. I really truly believe my life is a gift. I got to play pro hockey in a great city, in Boston, New England, Massachusetts. This area is phenomenal. It's one of those things I look back and I say, geez, I wish I didn't blow my knee out. I wish I didn't break my wrist. There was a time in my rookie season that, I had a very promising career. I had, 8 points in my first 11 games. I did really well in training camp and exhibition the year before, and things were looking really good. And that kind of changed my life, and I had to fight to get back in the NHL, and literally fighting was the way I got back. And it's kind of a godsend because either you're a goal scorer in Boston or you're a tough guy in Boston, and the fans really take to you. So because of that, I've been treated like gold. And I do radio now on WAF,
I mean, that's been a better career than your hockey career.
I'm in my 17th year. So I played pro hockey, and I've done, I was lucky enough to do tons of stuff with you on TV and tons of stuff with everybody in radio. I've been able to do ESPN, TSN, and all this stuff.
You've been on, and you're also on this. It's called The Last Gladiators. It's really kind of a story about Chris Nyland.
An incredible story.
An incredible story, and LB's a big part of this. I watched it this last week. We did Nyland a couple weeks ago. We interviewed him, and I'm really happy that he is where he's at, because he was in a bad place.
He sure was.
Now tell me about your ability, your fighting. Well, compare yourself to Nyland.
Oh, well, I would never compare myself to Chris Nyland. Knuckles was, for as big as he was and the guys he had to fight. Chris Nyland was probably 6'1", 200 pounds, couple hundred pounds soaking wet. He was like me. I was a wet rat too. I was 6'2", 205 pounds.
You didn't back away from
I know. Listen, it doesn't even hurt. The best thing can happen in a fight is the guy knock you out, because you don't feel nothing, you don't get cut, and there's always somebody there to help you up, put you back together. It's just one of those things. You got to do what you got to do. I wanted to protect my teammates. I think my teammates respected me. I think Chris Nyland, a lot of people don't understand how good he was. He fought every tough guy, Ben Wilson, Probert, Jonathan O'Reilly, and he got 20 goals. He was a 20-goal scorer. He scored 20 goals multiple times, and he's a Stanley Cup champion. And that says a lot for someone that fought, as long and as hard as he did, year in and year out. So comparing myself to Knuckles is not close. Did I have fun and do a great job, and do I think I have the respect of my teammates? I think I can go to bed at night and think and know that Ray Bourque thinks I was a good teammate, and Cam Neely thinks I was a good teammate, and Andy Moog thinks I was a good teammate. And it was an honor and a pleasure to play on some of the greatest Bruins teams. I mean, couple of Stanley Cup finals, 4 conference championships during my time, but I wish I would have played with a little less reckless abandon.
Really?
I was hurt a lot.
You think you were a better player than you were able to show.
I think I wish I would have tried to take care of my body a little better. Instead of trying to run the guys through the boards, through the end of the rink, and dislocating my shoulder, breaking my wrist, breaking my back.
Deal. A big part of who that LB was. It's a little different who this LB is.
Yeah.
But the big part of who that LB was translated into your radio gig.
Oh, of course. Of course, I'm a yap off. Of course, yeah. I always took a lot of pride in the fact that if we were on a 5-game losing streak and no one wanted to talk, they'd always come to me, because I'd always have something to say, And I always had fun. I think I still always have fun. I care about people.
Yeah.
I live life to the fullest.
I'm not going to touch your stomach, but I'm just saying, teams act. Care about people.
And right now I got another little guy. I mean, that's another gift.
What would you tell? This is your son on here.
That's William P. Byers.
Okay, what are you going to tell Bill when about his dad? What do you want him to know about?
I think I don't think I'll ever have to tell. You know what? I'll let people will tell Will what they want to tell him about me. I'm not worried about it.
What do you want him to say?
They'll say what they got to say.
No.
I mean, there are going to be people that like me. There are going to be people that dislike me. There are going to be people that
Who wouldn't like you? Why wouldn't they like you? Because you just insult them all the time?
No, I'm not like that.
No, you're not
like that. I'm not like that.
No, you've got a heart of gold, and you're a big kid.
I am a big teddy bear, and I'm a happy guy. And I just want, I just try and give back. And I'm not going to kid anybody. You know me. I have fun. When it's time to, I play hard and I have fun, and I try to do it respectfully.
Well, it almost makes me cry to hear that.
I know, incredible. He said, "I'm nothing but a big teddy bear," and he is. I mean, people would say, what's LB like? I said, he's the nicest, kindest, softest. They go, really? That guy that you saw in the air? I said, yeah, he is. And, there are a lot of guys like that. O'Reilly was like that too.
That's pretty good. I just found out from Keelan, our producer, that we did that she thinks that interview was done 9 years ago. Yes, 2016, but it's just amazing. I don't know who the guy was interviewing him, and this must have an important thing, but I did like the fact that he asked him, what do you want him to tell your kid and about you? That to me was good.
Yeah. I like how he's got all the messages. And I got some tattoos here. I don't know, any message. You see them?
No, yeah, I can see him, but what are they?
They're fireworks.
Nice.
Nice.
I guess.
I can't get them off. You know, one of my
Why would you? Tattoos are not supposed to come off. That's why they're ink.
Well, I'm now inked up.
Who did that to you? Where did you go? Maybe you didn't go to a professional tattooist?
My granddaughter did this.
Oh, well, that's okay.
What's it? Ryan. Yeah, I can't even.
Can I see him again? Can you show him up to us?
Let's see. Right there.
Oh yeah, they're sparkly. All right, good job.
Here's some right here.
Okay, well, what's her name? Because
Ryan.
Ryan.
Ryan. Ryan.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Ryan, the tattoo parlor girl.
Yeah, she got a future. I would.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get to what, number 3?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I was like,
I love it.
I'm glad we did this. This was as good as.
Who's the guy interviewing Opie?
I know, some stiff.
Some intern.
Yeah, really, he must.
Well, regular. Don't drink and drive because you go to jail. You know, there was 5. It was awful. It was the worst 60 days of my life.
Well,
it was a huge lesson.
People need to hear this.
Well, it was a tough time. I have no problem talking about it. My life is open, and on the radio, everybody knows all about me. I retired in 95, 96, and I proceeded to go on a 5-year bender, and I disrespected myself. I disrespected my friends.
Nyland did the same thing. Other guys do. Why?
Well,
what happens?
I think I probably could have listened to Cam Neely, late in my career when he said, "Hey, what are you going to do after hockey? What are you going to do after hockey?" And my response to Cam all the time was, "Hey, I'm a good guy. I work hard. I'll do whatever I got to do."
In other words, that career just ends.
It just ends.
And there's nothing after that.
There's not if you don't plan for it. There's nothing. So I got my ass kicked, and I'm glad Cam helped me. I went to Hazelton to rehab, and my life, it completely changed. It reeled me in, Lobby. It stopped the train wreck.
Forced to face yourself.
Yeah, it stopped the train wreck, and the rest is history. I came back to Boston and gave myself 2 years to get a job in TV and radio, and thanks to friends like you and Gene Levanchi, and there's a lot of people that I could thank that did some fun stuff with me on TV, and I had the chance to do some ESPN color and hockey, and I was off and running. Glenn Ordway, Jason Wolf, they Psycho Lyons and I were the very first Big Show tandem, way back in 96 or 97, whenever it was. But, I'm glad I'm like I said, I'm married. My son Will had his 4th birthday on Saturday. I have a beautiful, lovely wife, and I get it this time. 3 times a charm.
You get it.
I get it this time.
Yeah,
I finally dialed it in around 99, Lobie. I dialed her in.
It's a lot of guys don't do that. A lot of guys can't do that, but
it happens. It happens. But more often than not, like I said, the NHL was great. I can't thank Cam enough. Nevin Markward, I had Jay Miller. I had great teammates that I leaned on them, and they were more than happy enough to help me up and help me get her done. So now I'm lucky enough to be sitting beside you, and I respect Chris, and I love Chris Nyland, and
that's it's a chance to see this movie. I want to say it's called The Last Gladiators.
Yeah,
he's a big part of this. Nyland's a huge part of this.
Just awesome.
And it's it's a story of. Well, it doesn't have an end yet, because it's all about picking him up when he had to pick himself up.
Yeah.
And you did the same thing. But if you get a chance to find this DVD, The Last Gladiators, you won't be disappointed.
Little do we know, DVDs are out of the hard.
I first met LB right after he got drafted. Nate Green, I was working at WITS radio. And Nate Greenberg brought the first 2 draft choices around. And the number one draft pick in '82 of the entire draft was Gordy Kluzak, and the second round pick was LB Lyndon Byers. So they were sitting in the studio, and they're both from Saskatchewan. And so I asked, I said, so what part of Saskatchewan are you from, LB? And he told me, and I never heard of the place. He goes, but where do you hear where Kluzak's from? He's from Saskatchewan, and guess what the name of the town is? Climax. Climax, Saskatchewan. And LB was like, he fell over backwards. He was laughing so hard, because Kluzak didn't, but he wanted to make sure it was shouted from the rooftops. And I said right away, this is our new go-to guy in the locker room from now on. This guy, the first day I met him, I said, I'm in love with this guy, and he hasn't disappointed until he took his last breath. Climax, Saskatchewan.
That's very funny. I can just see him doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And even looking at this interview, you find out what a really regular guy he was, and how, how, I wouldn't say damaged in a way, but he had his issues, and he wasn't afraid to face them. I mean, he wasn't afraid to admit to them, and wasn't afraid to face them. I think he was just always a kid, just always a big kid.
And as he said, his life story has been an open book. He doesn't hide anybody. He went to Hazleton, Minnesota, to rehab for a while, and Hey, let me get another one of our sponsors.
No, I think that was a good idea. Just read my mind.
Yeah.
By the way, I got such a terrific reaction from the Jack Parker interview we did last week.
I did too. I got a ton of good feedback from it, and he was great. And hey, George Gray, so look, speaking of the Cape, or not the Cape, this weekend, 4th of July. You were at Cold Springs RV. You can take that anywhere around New England. And I think our family had at least 3 of George Gray's Toyotas on the road somewhere this weekend. But anyway, if you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lobel and Lynch go. Go see our good friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know that George Gray and his entire staff and his entire family will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust and you can trust as well. Go see the big wheel, the great George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. I could see all those George Gray Lexington Toyotas coming off the Cape and off the bridge, and all of them. I'd see.
There wasn't so many of them. There wouldn't be half the traffic.
No, but I see Hondas
broken down
the side of the road, but
every time I see George, I said, "This is your fault. You're the one that sells these, so many cars. This is your fault." And he knows it too.
Yep.
You know what? The other thing about this Lyndon Byers thing, I was more kind of concerned since he just passed away on July 4th. For God's sakes, that's so hard to believe that it was this July 4th when he just passed away at 61. But I think he would enjoy this. I would think he would enjoy us playing this. I mean, yeah.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it.
I'm not trying to justify us doing this. I just think what better way to honor somebody than to remember them in their own words. I mean, we should tell people should tell us how they feel about us before we die, because because at the funeral they'll say all these nice things that they should have said to us when we were alive.
Yeah.
Just saying. I don't know why I'm bringing that up, but
why do you think I'm being so nice to you all the time?
I don't. Maybe because you like me.
A bait. Use that word.
All right, let's go to the next. Whatever. What's the next one? Number 3? Number 4?
I don't know. I lost count.
I know you did. Okay, let's try number 4.
17 years, WAAF, morning man. How would you describe Boston? And I know there's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
But I think you're as plugged in to the spirit of Boston as anybody. And I think that's been really good for your success because, like you said, you get it. I know you get it.
Yeah.
But can you put it into words that...
I just think, ultimately, I don't have to put it into words, Bob. I think what happened on Marathon Monday is the epitome of each and every Massachusetts, New Englander, the spirit that came out of that, what you saw from the everyday guy, from my friend Lucas Carr, who's an Army Ranger, finishing the marathon when the bombs went off at the finish line. He pushed his girlfriend forward, immediately ran back in and basically was a part of saving 13 people's lives. He didn't think twice. He doesn't want to be thanked for it. Doesn't need to be on TV. I mean, there's so many stories between police officers, first responders, and then the spirit, and no one complains. All the people that were hurt, and they never came. They came on TV, and after they have their lives saved or their legs sewn up, and they get that first TV interview, you never heard anyone go, I hate so and so.
Right.
It's this person was so amazing to me. These doctors were so amazing to me. That spirit, and then you see the donations and all the backbone of everybody wants to help these people, move forward financially, physically, emotionally, and I get that on the radio. Each and every morning, all these hardworking people, they call in. I get what I do. Two-parent families, both parents work hard. They have a couple of 3 kids, and they got a 2-hour commute, and they got to work 8 hours in a 2-hour commute home. If I can make them laugh, and so that they're at the water cooler at noon and they're laughing about something that the morning show said or did or what I did, I've already got them halfway through their day. And that means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to them. And so it's just and people are knowledgeable, lovely people. That you've been here long enough, but it's just like you know so many great people in this area. Just give. Just give. And that is what makes Massachusetts and Boston the small big city that it is. Everybody, you can't go anywhere. Everybody knows what you're doing.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I do not either.
I think it's a gift.
I think it is truly a gift. I think it's great.
It's not always the most helpful thing.
Well, you get your butt busted a lot because everybody knows what you're up to.
Clearly, but it's worth it. It's been worth it to have a chance to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't.
Like you said, so it's been a gift.
Not a minute in my day goes by that at some point, whether I'm driving, whether even doing an interview, I get to I think about it all the time. Just how great it is that I ended up here, and it's tough for my family back home in Western Canada. They're all in Edmonton and Vancouver Island. My mom and dad live on Vancouver Island, but
beautiful place.
It's a beautiful place. But this is my home.
Yeah.
This is my home. I've been here.
Were they surprised
been here since I was 18.
Success, your family, did they think like you were?
Do you know?
What do you think? What did they think you were going to be? And did they just think you were a crazy kid, Lyndon?
No.
He's just, he's going to hurt somebody. No, worse yet, he's going to hurt himself.
No, my dad, I'll tell you a really great story. My mother is English. My father met my mother. My mother was working for the Barnum and Bailey Circus. She was taking care of the animals, the elephants and whatever it was in the Barnum and Bailey Circus. The circus ended up in Western Canada. My mom met my dad.
Wow.
Mom was taking care of the elephants. Something struck me there. But LB, this is my home. Why is it that the Bruins, more than any other organization, have players when they come and play here? They come from all parts of North America. They make this their permanent home. Why is that?
I don't know, Mike. I can't answer that question, except I just suspect it has a lot much. Almost any question of that type can go back to the primarily Canadian upbringing. I mean, it may not be the case anymore with so many hockey players growing up in America, but the Canadian upbringing certainly makes them more adaptable to almost any situation. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I mean, they, and when they're playing hockey as young kids, they live away from home, and they just seem to adapt in a much less strenuous way, in a much less selfish way than
I mean, he became entrenched in this area, and it wasn't long before we said he's ours. He's our LB. He's not Saskatchewan's or Vancouver's or Edmonton.
or Climax, actually, Climax Saskatchewan. Right. I'd take that.
I mean,
I grew up in Climax, Ohio. They don't have one, but
but he's
would have been
what
better
a
than
career
that.
he had in radio, though. I mean, he had no training. He didn't go to broadcasting school or anything. He just was on the radio, and he was himself. And that was good enough to be a success, and that was good enough to get some laughs, and good enough.
I think some people don't realize that all you have to do is kind of be yourself.
Yeah.
And if that's not good enough, then you better find something else to do.
All right. How many we get left? Do we know?
I don't know, but just let us know. Keep rolling. Let's try the next one and see how far we can get.
I came from northern Canada, but Nipawin, Saskatchewan, population 2,800, and there's nothing to do there. My 2,800 people in Nipawin. There's like six outdoor rinks and an indoor artificial rink. I mean,
I know, but coming from a small town is also, and then spending time here in Boston, it's a great advantage, I think.
Well, I think hockey players, people always, I get it a lot, and I think you've heard it a lot too, because you've been in the sports world. It's like you hear a lot of people say, hockey players are really the greatest guys.
I hear it all the time. I say it all the time.
But I think that's because, number one, a lot of us, from the very beginning of the NHL, everybody came from Canada, from these small little towns of 800 people, 200 people, 2,000 people. Granted, there are no really big cities in Canada. Montreal's half a million people. Other than that, you're in the 200,000 range. Toronto obviously is massive, and Vancouver is massive. But outside of that, it's just small town stuff. So they formed the NHL, and then the one thing I learned early on is that, my very first day in Boston, I got to meet Bobby Orr. And so you have these people that built this game before you. Far be it for me to not respect them and act, not as well as they did. But, people like Bobby Orr set the standard, and we all try and do the same. And that means you respect everybody, you sign every autograph, you say hi to everybody, because it takes 2 seconds.
And it's kind of a nice thing. I mean, when people ask you for your autograph, it's kind of makes
huge compliment.
Huge compliment.
Yeah.
Some guys can't be bothered. Right?
I know. But again, I never hold a grudge about that. I just worry about me, because I didn't come from New York, in a neighborhood that had an apartment building that had 5 times as many people that were in my town. Right. How can I even relate to that?
I hate to go back to the fighting thing, but
don't. I wouldn't be here, Lobie, if I couldn't punch people out.
This is true. Okay.
Or get beat up with a smile. I always smile.
Anybody, seriously, can you say there was any people that you were afraid of to fight, or did not want to fight, or would avoid if you could? Because you were a tough guy.
I think another great story. We were playing the Philadelphia Flyers, and it's exactly what we're talking about, or the question you just asked me. So we were playing the Flyers, and they had called Berube up, and they called a couple other tough guys up from Hershey. So I knew it was going to be, I knew it was on. So, same routine, you have your 4 or 5 cups of coffee, take a couple of Vibrant, get all jacked up, ready to roll. And, you're sitting in your stall, and you're saying, man or a mouse, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Really? When the guy looks at you, the whole building knows. Yeah. When the guy looks at you, what are you going to do? You're going to answer the bell, So I had taken a walk around the locker room, and Terry O'Reilly was in the adjacent locker room where the coaches sit and plan the game, do whatever. And I walked up to Taz, and I said, Taz, were you ever afraid? Were you ever, really afraid? And he's like, the Broad Street Bullies? What? Are you kidding me? Yeah. I mean, what idiot wouldn't be, wouldn't be anxious and fearful? And I don't know if it's so much fearful of the fighting part of it, but you're fearful of the humiliating part of it. And some guy, and I'm not speaking for Taz, but I don't know exactly what his anxiety was, but obviously you're anxious if you might have to get in a, back then it would be a full team, full on brawl or 5-on-5.
We have one more
So,
after that.
And it's I don't want to get knocked out in front of.
So that was pretty interesting.
17,000 people.
It wasn't the fighting; it was the embarrassment.
Your job is to fire your team up.
The real concern. It wasn't about getting hurt. It was about being embarrassed.
Yeah, getting embarrassed. Yeah, that was interesting, and I thought that him when he went in and asked O'Reilly that question, he says, he probably because O'Reilly he's got Dave Schultz out there number one, and as tough a guy as there is, and that was pretty good. He said, "In my 4 or 5 cups of coffee," I figure I didn't really hear what he said, what he took after that.
I know, I said right.
But I think he was pretty amped up to go toe to toe with somebody pretty early on.
It's just when you look at somebody and you meet eye to eye, it's on. He said, they brought those guys up from Hershey. I knew it was on. So it was on.
I'm just sitting here laughing, and I hope everybody what's watching this show knows what it's cathartic for us, and I think we're celebrating how Lyndon Byers lived, and we all thought we knew him, but I'm learning more and more about this guy, and I hope people that are watching and listening to this are learning more about LB and what a terrific guy he is, and he's just a peach of a guy. I mean, I can't think of a better word, a peach of a guy.
He died 3 days ago. It's hard to believe.
No, 4th of July. I know. Hard to believe.
61 years old.
I know. I mean, how appropriate that he takes his last breath on the day of the Big Bang, 4th of July.
Right.
And he lived so many of them in his life.
And he said he loved living in this country, and he loved everything it's given to him, and all those things. And I want to give Greg Hill a lot of credit too for recognizing
yes, absolutely.
what he was able to bring to, at that time, WAAF in Worcester, and then to WEEI in Boston, because I think Greg recognized what a talent he had in Lyndon Byers and used it and enabled Lyndon to really have a great career, off the ice after his other career. So
yeah, it was
anyway,
good.
I just give Greg a big shout out. We got one more, I think, Mike.
We do have one more. We both know how to count. It's one thing we've learned.
My last question.
Yes, sir.
Tim Thomas.
Yes.
Without the performance of Tim Thomas, which was one of the greatest athletic runs I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah, you bet.
Of all time. Without that, the Bruins don't win the Stanley Cup. Now, should he be come back? Should he be cheered, standing O? Should he be booed for not going to the White House, not going, leaving the team?
Yeah.
Where do you?
Listen, I have a ton of respect for Tim Thomas. He helped this team grow to a Stanley Cup champion. He mentored Tuukka Rask to pass on a goaltender of the almost the same capabilities, or I would say the same capabilities of himself. I don't begrudge any athlete. A goaltender, your body gets beat up. You get mentally beat up. We forget the journey that Tim Thomas had.
Correct.
Tim Thomas, everybody remembers Tim Thomas in Boston Bruins NHL, and they think his career was 7 or 8 years or 6 or 7 years. Well, Tim Thomas put in like 7 years in the minors, 7, 8 years in the minors before he made the jump. So, you're talking about 15 years of wear and tear, and you're a goaltender, one of the toughest positions in the league. I know a ton of great ones, Moger. I'm great friends with Reggie Lemelin, and he's amazingly honest when it comes to, the workload and the wear and tear on your mind. And I don't begrudge anybody. I don't care if it's you or the guy that's a mechanic, a bus driver. Somebody says, I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out. I'm sorry. I'm taking a year off. And that's what he did. And, the guy won a Stanley Cup for the Boston Bruins first time since 1972. How do you not cheer that guy? He never let you down. He never came in and gave you a half effort ever. And, he set a standard because there's a lot of goaltenders that want to, play like Tim Thomas did. And like political views, all that other stuff, that's garbage. I don't, what do I care what, it's about playing hockey.
LB, don't ever change.
Hey, Lobie, I love you, man. You know that. You know that.
I know. Man love, man crush.
You got it.
You know what? I have the greatest respect for this guy. And like I said, don't change.
I never.
All right.
Never. All right, love.
Willie's a lucky kid.
You're lucky. Yeah. I'm a lucky guy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
New England sports legends, Lyndon Byers. And you know what? The legend is still growing.
Oh, that was a great interview, Bob, by the way.
Thanks.
Well done. And
Well, that was nice of you to say that.
yep. When he was living with Cam Neely, so I live here, and one street that way, Harry Sinden lives, and one street that way is LB and Cam Neely. So you can call their house Animal House, pretty much.
Well, you can. Right. Okay.
Right. And now I'm thinking, how do they have to go by Harry's house every time they leave and they go downtown? And so that would be one question I would love to ask LB. How did you keep everything quiet from Harry? Because somebody must have told him. But one day the two of them came over to my house and they said, all right, Lynchy, we're living in this house. We just built it. LB's paying me rent. Cam owned the house. He said, who cut your grass? I said, oh, call this guy Ernie up. He goes, all right. Now, where do you go to the hardware store? I said, get down to Fell's Hardware, see Kevin, tell him you're a friend of mine. He'll set you up on an account, and it'll be good. He goes, who cleans your house? And I said, well, I married her. And LB goes, there'll be none of that. There'll be none of that right here. None of that at all. Find me a cleaning lady because I'm not going to marry one.
That's amazing. I'm glad we did that today. Yeah, I'm glad we did that today. That was.
I hope the people enjoyed it. Again, it's an interview that Bob did from 2016.
I'm sorry we had to do that today. I shouldn't say I'm glad we had to do that today, but I'm sad we had to do that today.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem possible that he's not alive.
But I'm gonna think about LB and I'm gonna break out laughing. He's one of those guys that doesn't even have to open his mouth, and you're laughing before he even utters his first syllable. That's the way I always felt about LB. And he made the thing. He said I was always the guy. When if we lost a tough game, guys are mad. They got their head down, but I always had a sort of a snicker on my face. And you guys know you could always come to me, turn the cameras on, and you'd get your quote, and you'd be bust out of there. And he was right. We did a lot of times. He was the go-to guy.
Well, he was our go-to guy, and for all the wrong possible reasons today. But I can just say, don't ever change. LB, right? Don't ever change.
Yep, don't ever change. And our thoughts obviously goes out to his wife and his son,
Annie,
and his entire family. And we love LB. We always have, and we always will. And thank you for sharing him with us and with everybody else.
Good job. All right, let's wrap it up for today.
Okay, that's unanchoredboston.com. Make sure you follow us, and we'll see you next time. For Bob Lobel, I'm Mike Lynch.
We're trying hard.